the inner child ran away because it knew where to go. It went into my heart because it was the safest place for it to be, right? I want to bring my inner child. I'm not going to find it in my shoulder. I'm not going to find it, on my feet. It's going to be in the domain of my heart where it has a full universe to play with. And if I let it come out and say, it's okay, you're also opening your heart at the same time, because there's a part of that inner child that you're bringing out, and it's part of the heart.
Everybody to the Heart Coherence Collaborative.
Welcome, Brian Scott.
Yeah, so excited to have you back with us.
Yes.
Thank you for
having me.
Yeah.
Yes, we love you. The Heart Coherence Collaborative loves you.
I love you too.
Yeah. It's my opinion that you have the best YouTube channel out in the world for personal growth and transformation. If you haven't checked it out, anybody following this, go listen to the Reality Revolution podcast.
What am I supposed to say to that, man? What can I say? Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Beam in the truth of it.
Yeah, it's the truth. The best guided meditations. She wrote a book called The Reality Revolution that has also been very influential in my growth. So again, thank you for everything you've done for us, brother. And we're so grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much. So
want to dive in. There's something that's been coming up a lot for me lately. And it's this topic around the inner child. So for me, I've noticed a lot lately when things will happen in my life that maybe they trigger me, maybe I get angry about something. My natural reaction is to look to the external environment, maybe to blame. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. And I'm feeling this way. But a lot of the stuff that I am learning about and reading about is talking about, actually, it's really this inner child that needs my love. So instead of, blaming externally, it's like I actually really should be going inward and giving that inner child a hug that maybe was left at one point in time and didn't get something that he was looking for. So I'm trying to take everything back to that. And I would love to just hear your perspective on the inner child.
It's a fascinating topic. I learned a lot about the inner child from Stephen Barnes. One of my first interviews. He's a science fiction writer. If you're studying heart coherence, so an intricate part of the heart is this inner child. It's an innocent part. It's a state that we were in. It's a part of our personality that we kind of push away as we grow, as we mature, but it never leaves. And it's always standing there judging you, and you go back to your childhood, and that's how we define the world around us in a lot of cases. That natural, innocent excitement, when Christmas came, that the innocence, the purity of the inner child. And so a lot of times the guilt that we feel is a guilt because we're letting down that inner child within us. A lot of times the struggles that we have, there's that little thought in the back of our minds. I would have never wanted this when I was a kid. And that little child never left. It's always been a part of you. And here's a little secret between you and me. I'm still just a little kid. When I'm 90 years old, looking out from these eyes, I'm still just a little kid. I think we all are deep down. It's a little secret I just want to tell you is that we all walk around acting like adults with my gray goatee, but I'm just a little kid, and I don't want to ever lose that. And sometimes I don't think we ever do lose it. But a lot of times the end of our lives and our death is just sort of trying to forget about it. And if we can embrace this inner child, the inner child is much wiser and smarter. When we go through struggles and problems in the world, a lot of times it's because that inner child is there behind us. And so a lot of times what happens when we get older is we're just trying to forget and push down that inner child. And the inner child is the part of our heart, the raw, perfect, innocent expression of our heart at the beginning. And if we can embrace this and contact it and come together with it, we do come into a greater coherence with our heart and our soul, because our soul is just that child. I'm the child, so that's why it's so powerful. For a long time, I've had an exercise in the morning. I don't do it every day because I forget, but I try. If I wake up, I talk to my inner child. What is it you want to do today? We forget about fun. We forget about having fun. Remember when we were kids, all the wonder when we go out in the backyard and you could sit and look at an anthill and it'd be like the coolest, funnest thing, right?
Yeah.
Walking around the neighborhood, we lose that. And when we lose that, we lose the essence of life. And we have to, even I think Jesus said, you will not, not see heaven, but as with through the eyes of a child. And so that is that innocent, childlike perspective is what we need to do. That's how, if you came to God, you would not be like all knowing. You just be like a little kid, just going, wow, I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
So we need to embrace the state. We need to find that part of ourselves, the inner child within us. And in the process, become even closer to our heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you just explained that, because even up until just before we talked, when I say, oh, this is my inner child, there's this almost like thought that I have that it's like, oh, that's like this younger version of me that's like a baby that's just kind of immature. And what you're saying is that's not true. It's a great version of ourselves.
It's the best version of ourselves. We think that we become better with more knowledge and maturity and experience, but we become worse. If we lose the real true inner wisdom, right? And we have such an easy and wonderful way to deal with problems. Everything is so hopeful and optimistic. And as we grow older and have more experiences, that youthful innocence, optimism, wondrous youth, joy, and gratitude, the feelings I had in my youth were more perfect and wonderful than I've had now, right? When that excitement, that feeling when you go to the movie theater, that excitement, for the first time, or all those wonderful things. It's never ending list. If you sit and start to really think about it, then it is important, and it's something that we don't acknowledge. And a lot of times, I think in my own experience, I found a lot of people suffer from the ignoring the inner child and letting it go. And so, sorry for my internet freezing up. I get we got a lot of energies moving through. It reminds me of
Totally okay. We're used
when
to
we
it
had
by
that,
now.
right? So it seems like when we get together, we jam up the electronics.
Right.
So we are never going to mature to the adulthood we have as an idea in our minds. And the more and more we mature to some sort of envisioned adulthood or mature state, we move away from the beauty and innocence of our heart. It's the truth. Why do we grow old? Because we're forgetting about that youthful energy that we had in our body. So it's a real struggle for a lot of us. And we were talking about abandonment. And a lot of times I have met people that struggle because something happens, somebody, a parent leaves, or there's a divorce, or and then they have these abandonment issues. And so it's devastating. And so later on, they have the same abandonment concerns and fears and worries that our inner child is so worried about, but we're not aware of that voice within us. So we act out to protect the inner child within us, and we are not aware that we're doing that. So we have, you might be in a horrible relationship, but you don't want to end it because the inner child is like, no, I don't want to be alone and abandoned by my parents, right? So you end up staying in these, it's this fear of abandonment, and so there's a lot of issues with it. It's not perfection. It's just pure love, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And saying all that, there is the aspect of the inner child that's the fun and the beauty and all of that lighthearted stuff. But there is the aspect that you were starting to talk about with fear of abandonment, which is your wounded self is often paired as a concept with the inner child. All the things that happened, and that you formed these beliefs or limiting beliefs from your childhood, or these patterns like fear of abandonment. So I always love to look at, the how of it. So when you have these things that come up when you're triggered, when you realize that you have these beliefs, that you decided things as a kid just because of things that happened to you, how do you, in terms of dealing with your inner child, what things do you do to process all of that, to try to change your limiting beliefs and to try to just listen to that part of you that's wounded.
We start to lose the inner child state within us when we start having those beliefs programmed into us. So there's a pre-state that we were in before we really took on these programs. So that there's a little transition. If you go back, that's the point where we lose that innocence. We lose the purity of that inner child. He still stays there and he's still aware of all the new programs. But once the programs start being leveled and the fears that start coming in, that's when we lose the inner child. So if we can find the inner child state, we can find that state prior to our being programmed. And that is an easy point to reprogram ourselves and go anew and afresh, because we are just so many programs that we have. And the biggest part of accessing the inner child state is that you learn about programs you might not have been aware of. You know, something is, for me, something as simple as my mom saying, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, Brian.
Mhm.
You know, hey,
Yeah.
oh, now I have this lack mindset. But, you know, later on, I figured out it does, because paper is trees, right? So money does grow on trees, Mom. But, you know, but I never, but now I had this belief for a long time that I was in a lack state. And it's offhand comments, little things that we do, little experience that we have. And you don't realize your response in those moments comes from a very fresh and innocent place, but it completely changes our life. It completely changes the way that we see the world. And in many cases, it affects our relationships,
Yeah.
our experience with money, and our health. We see our parents deal with health problems and we respond in the same way. We see our parents never showing affection towards each other, and we're then programmed, oh, you know, maybe they were afraid to show affection in front of me, or their way of showing affection was limited, or they only gave it out, or, you know, and so we model ourselves on that. And then the innocent child, that beautifully awakened inner child, goes away, because we become programmed by what we see around us. So it is a perfect state for us to go back to. So you can revise it. So a lot of times the awareness is, and so what we'll do when we do our meditation in a little bit, we'll go back and revise it. We'll create a relationship with our inner child, and we'll allow the inner child to speak to us. Because a lot of times the inner child is there yelling at us and we're not listening, because we don't think it's important, or we've minimized its significance in our life, because, well, we think we're going to be all mature adults and pay for our mortgage and stuff. Why?
Yeah.
Why can't we be kids forever? Why can't I go to the playground and swing on the swing? What's wrong with that? Why can't I go do that? What's the problem with me doing that?
No problem.
Why can't I enjoy the roller coaster with my son in the same way that he does, right? A lot of times we have kids and we see sparks of our own inner child, and it starts to come back to us a little bit, right? We experience our inner child through our kids, but it's only temporary, because for some reason we've taken on this program that tells us that we need to be the adult, you know, and got to pay the bills, and we got and so imagine if we never lost that wonderful lust and wonder of life and that joy as the inner child. And so the biggest thing that we lose, I think, when the inner child goes away is playing. Playing and creating for no reason, right? We always have these things in our mind. I'm going to create this for a reason. Maybe I'm going to do this thing, but we lose this wonderful, joyous state of play. And within that joyous state of play, all things can happen. Wonderful ideas, imagination, everything is available to us.
Yeah. And it's not like our fault that we've lost. No. It's almost like a lot of the external environment you have around you is kind
everybody loses it.
Yeah.
Everybody loses the inner child. And
so when these fears come up, when these fears and this anger and all these different things come up, what is our inner child doing in those moments?
The inner child is whispering to us about it. I think in some cases, the inner child is a deep part of our subconscious aspect of our personality shell that is always there. And I just think that we can never completely go back to it, right? But what the biggest problem is ignoring it and pushing it down and losing that state, because that state is so critical to us, and we're ignoring our heart.
Yeah.
when we do that, because the heart is pure love, and so is that when we're kids. And for some people it's really unfortunate, of course, we watch movies and books, some people lose that inner child at such a young age they don't even remember it. So
Mm,
young, you know what I mean? Some people have such horrible family experiences, or in terrible countries or environments where they're not allowed to ever really let their inner child born. And so it's pretty powerful in meditation to try to go back and see when the inner child is lost, and when, at what point he stopped, and understanding it, because we understand everything from our youth. A lot of everything that we do is programmed. And there's other metaphysical perspectives. There's always a chance that we've actually never experienced childhood. We don't know. We talked about this before. We don't know if we just woke up in this body today, right? It's all memories. So, but it's still an aspect, a part of our archetypal personality shell. And so I just think I'm devastated that so much of the world has lost their own inner child, this state that we should never lose, that we should always at least ask questions of. Does this sound,
yeah.
am I going to this business? Do you think I should do this?
Yeah.
No, that would be ridiculous. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you
Right.
want to sit and slave at that cubicle like you plan on doing? Really? Is that what you really want? Because we're taught, we ask our parents or our friends about things and
Mm,
decisions that we want to make. Do we ask the inner child if that's what we want? Because
yes.
and why do we say that the inner child doesn't know? Why do we downplay its wisdom? Why do we say sometimes what's happening is the unconscious nature of the inner child is expressed when people become, as you and I both know, becoming addicted to drugs or alcohol,
Yes.
because in
Yeah.
those moments where we're drinking, the inner child has that brief respite of 30 minutes to 45 minutes where and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it all goes downhill, right?
Yeah.
And then we chase the dragon. Oh, I want the inner child back, but he was always there. He was always there, right? You just
Yeah.
never let him out to play, right?
Mm,
Right?
yeah. Yeah. So how did you learn to ask yourself the questions? Because for me, I think one of the problems on my journey is that like the subconscious programming of these things that I've been taught that close off the inner child are so strong that I have a hard time sometimes even understanding, or maybe, I had a hard time deciphering what's my inner child and what's programmed.
It's a great question. I still have not come to that perfect point, and I think it's important. And
Mm,
I started to get a little more perspective and understanding of it after reading Carlos Castaneda. I read it on the channel. Carlos
yeah.
Castaneda has this idea that when you die, we all, and as I saw this in my near-death experience, um, your life flashes before your eyes, right? And so you
Yeah.
have everything that's happening, and so it's like these entities in higher realms are feeding on that, right? And then you lose all your energy and you just get sucked back into another life. So if you sit and it's called recapitulating, you go through your whole life, every
Wow.
moment of it, even the most inconsequential parts, and then live them out, see them, and then kind of release them. Then you have this energy, because it seems like all of our energies are attached to all these other experiences, so that when we die, we just become like the shell and it goes on. And so we can reclaim all of our energies by doing this. So as I started to do that, some of the people that follow Castaneda are crazy about it. They'll sit in a coffin and try
Mm,
to, but at a minimum, if you and I have a recapitulation meditation on the channel, and so it's very similar to revision, but it's going back through segments of your life. Start out when, there's even in one of his books, he tells a story of Don Juan, who is his mentor, takes him through these exercises, and you start replaying these experiences, and you don't remember them, but they become so vivid and clear, and you have these deep inner experiences. So as I relived these experiences, journaled about them, they became languid, powerful things in my life that I needed to address, that I wasn't even aware of.
mm,
So, and as I address them, I know that now if I'm having a near-death experience, I've already dealt with all that. It's all not these things that are just floating within my subconscious that are just ready to be eaten, kind of,
yeah.
if that makes sense. So,
Yes.
you don't even have to look at it, that aspect of it. I promise you, there's so much stuff that you experienced as a child
Yeah.
that you don't remember, so many people that you met, going to the swimming pool when you were a kid. If I start just reeling off the first time you rode a bike, now it might be the first time you actually thought about that, but that wavering, that balance, the people, you start to remember it, right? You start to, the first time you fell on a bike, right? Oh, you start, if I
Oh,
start to
yeah.
bring little things up, hypnotists have done this forever. A neurolinguistic program loves to do that, is to ask questions about your past to sort of anchor you to other moments, and it brings up stuff, get your mind reeling. And a lot of that is because you have energy that you are giving out to things you don't even know about. Right? It's like you woke up and did a full 2-hour workout and you don't even know it. Why am I tired, man? I don't know. Because there's this part of your subconscious that is working on all this stuff that you haven't brought to the surface and addressed. So I think that recapitulation has helped me. That is just kind of, okay, I'm going to start, I'm going to go through the first 6 months of my life. Do I remember anything? I didn't at first, but I remember back to my womb when I start meditating about it. I can hear the sounds. I do have things. I remember first time sitting with my parents watching TV and like what the TV was, right? I remember the first microwave that we had, right? And it was kind of a new experience having a microwave, right? And I remember, just the toys that I played with when I was a kid. And I remembered, these little things, you start to bring them up and you address them, and wow, there's things that you didn't realize. We have so many memories, and if we can reach that perfect Buddhist state where we've let go of the past and the future, that's great, but that's not normal, and it's not going to happen. It's very unusual, and usually somebody's reached that enlightened state where they've let go of their past. It's taken them decades, and I think that we can probably reach that state faster by bringing it up and addressing it. Yes, we can forget about our past, but I don't know if we can necessarily forget about it until we brought it up and addressed it, because there's a sort of metaphysical law. When you push it down, it comes up in other ways, in sicknesses, in personality flaws that we have. I know you've met people, and what's their deal? Right. Yeah. What's their, and it's probably something from their childhood, and it's a battle they're having with their inner child, right? And they're trying to reclaim that perfect, beautiful, wonderful feeling. Because what was the most, let me ask you this, the rawest emotions that you felt of happiness and joy in your stomach and body, weren't they kind of in your childhood? I mean, yes, we have sexual experiences. We have experiences when we're on drugs, or we have other physical experiences after, running or working out. But a lot of our really powerful emotional experiences become grounded and initialized in that inner child experience. So when you say, bring up a feeling of joy, when you do a heart coherence meditation, where is that coming from? Is it coming? And you may not realize it, but you're bringing up a memory because it's so grounded. It's from when you were a child, right?
The one that comes up for me most often is just me running in the field as a kid. Like I remember being like 2 or 3,
carefree, right?
Just absolute freedom.
Right. Absolute wonderful freedom, right? Or when you're with your friends and your parents say, don't go away too far. And you guys feel that freedom, like, oh, we're going to be away from our friends, our parents for a little while, and running around, going, doing stuff. I'm going to say some bad words and nobody's going to hear me. And, all that stuff, snack. Right? That's all still a part of you. It didn't go away. And it's still, and that aspect is so core and raw and powerful that if you ignore it, it's just going to be there. And that little voice that you can't hear, maybe in your dreams, and you don't know what it is, that conscience, a lot of times our conscience, if you're doing something terrible and your conscience is saying, what are you doing? How you should be ashamed of yourself. I promise you, the killer, the voice that says, how could you do that, is the voice of the inner child, right? The voice of like, I never could imagine you killing somebody or stealing that thing. It's the consciousness is grounded with the inner child, right? And we were more aware at our earliest age. We couldn't speak, but we could. And a lot of times we were fully imagined perfect souls, and then we began to forget. I think that a lot of times when we make the mistake, like when I regret with my kids, I not talking to them as if they were full grown, completely adults in their first few months, you know, doing baby talk and treating them like babies. Because my sister has done that with her kids, totally different. She's treating them like they have full knowledge and awareness right off the bat. And then they understand you. They just haven't developed their vocal cords and they're coordinating them, you know.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So in that process you're talking about, Brian, when you're going through your various memories, are you just writing them down and processing them, or are you also doing some process akin to revising and changing? Because
if it's significant, a lot of times I just want to be the neutral observer and just observe it, and then it just sort of fades away. But then if something it sticks and I keep on remembering it and it doesn't go away, then I'll go through that process. I'll try to resolve it. I'll send love to it. And in Carlos Castaneda's case, you know, Don Juan said, you got to do everything in your power to resolve this thing. And it's the most important thing in your life. And if you need to give up all your possessions that you own and give them all and help this person out, then you need to do it. Right. When you start going through some of these memories, they become very, very important. And so that I might journal those. I might directly acknowledge that I need to deal. I might ask my higher self, what do I need to do to resolve this? Because sometimes it is a karmic situation. Most of the time, it's just an experience that you're acknowledging that is there, and then you let go. But the process of remembering, you will have certain things that you need to obviously deal with. There are programs that are in there that are in the underlying operating system. And so for you to reprogram, you're going to have to completely reprogram everything. And it's going to take a little bit more than just observing it and acknowledging it. Carlos Castaneda would say you can just observe and acknowledging it. And what's happening when you're in that final moments of death is you're just seeing it, and just seeing it is enough. But I do believe there's sort of a karmic balance going on with some of these experiences we had. And maybe they're completely irrelevant, but we made them super important, right? So
yeah, will you go through? I find that it's helpful to go through and really, in an imagination, give the inner child what it needed at certain points too. Will you go through and do that in the processes that you do?
I do.
Like see what they didn't get and what made maybe a belief form that wasn't good programming. Yeah.
And don't go with the idea that it was only when you were a kid. Your inner child was there all the way through high school. So for me, my own inner child had sexual issues and sexual adventures and fantasies. And so I've let my inner child dream and fantasize those out. And I've had times when my inner child was like, good job, buddy, you know, because if I ignored it, then it becomes this sort of seething underlying motivation that is dark and you know what I'm saying? So your inner child has been pure all along. So yes, I've revised and gone back and imagined and given my inner child experiences that my inner child wanted to experience. And I've done things in my imagination for my inner child. And there's sort of a burden that's lifted because it was an experience that my inner child deeply was craving, that was pushing me towards something that later I was something as simple as me imagining it and I could let it go, right? But when you start feeding the inner child good and wonderful experiences that your inner child wanted to experience in your physical life, then you start getting closer and closer together. And then when you wake up in the morning and ask your inner child, how's this going? Good job, buddy. I'm proud of you. You know, that's the best feeling. Like my inner child's proud of me. I did a good job. You know, this is what he wanted. I'm living the life my inner child wanted me to live back then when he imagined, wouldn't it be cool if, right? So, yeah.
Before we dive into this meditation, I would just love to hear you touch a little bit more on how the heart is the portal to that inner child.
The heart is the portal to the universe, right? The heart is the portal to everything, as we've discussed before. We know it is the primal form of our soul, and it is the place where, you know, the one atom, the nous atom that shared all of our lifetimes, and it is the place where all of our power comes from. It is the place where love is expressed within us. But there is a purity to the heart. If you go in and really spend time, I have that meditation when I speak to the heart. The heart is not this wise old person. It's a playful, wonderful child that still is wanting to play, an eternal child. We get in this our idea in the mind. The wise man is the person sitting on the mountain that's super smart and knows all the things and sits in silence. But I believe the wise man is the kid that's in our heart that wants to play, because that's why we're here. Let's have some fun, damn it.
Let's go.
Come on, let's
I
go.
vow to
That
return
is
to a
what
joyful
that
state.
and that is when I find that in my heart. The heart is the seat of our emotions, and our emotions are coming from that inner child perspective. That's my own. I might be wrong, but by understanding that aspect, that it is a heart related state, that the inner child ran away because it knew where to go. It went into my heart because it was the safest place for it to be, right? I want to bring my inner child. I'm not going to find it in my shoulder. I'm not going to find it, on my feet. It's going to be in the domain of my heart, where it has a full universe to play with. And if I let it come out and say, it's okay, you're also opening your heart at the same time, because there's a part of that inner child that you're bringing out, and it's part of the heart, right? That's my own. How do you tell me your perspective on it? Why what do you think that resonates with you, that the inner child's in the heart?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. When I do heart coherence, I always return to that joyful, playful state. I feel the lightest. I feel most like I did when I was that kid running free in the grass,
Yeah.
When your friends would come over and you'd play, right? Why don't we do that anymore? Why don't our friends come over and play anymore, right?
It's so funny. The one thing
What the heck?
when I do heart coherence lately, like one thing that keeps coming up, and I've wondered why it keeps coming up, is me like jumping off this 60-foot cliff with my friends, like just doing things that are wildly kid-like.
Right.
But
snowboarding with my friends is something I always have that. Let's go. Let's snowboard down the super huge cliff or something like that.
Yeah.
That's my inner child, my friends, me playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think really I feel like the inner child is connected with the emotions, and the emotions is your heart.
That's when we were closest to our emotions, and we weren't afraid to express them. When we were in our inner child as a child, when we were free, that freedom of the inner child is what we're seeking all our lives. I want to get this money so I can be my inner child again and I can play. I want to do this thing so I can be right. And it's already there. It's already there. Just bring out the inner child and just start playing. Right. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think before there's words, you really are just feelings. So if you strip everything away,
you're just feelings. Yeah, exactly. Feeling. Yeah. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's go talk to the inner child.
Yes.
Yeah. All
right. All right. I just want you to let go for a few moments. Go back to that place that you always go to when you meditate. Take a deep breath and become aware of your breath. Move your attention to your heart and put your hand on your heart if that helps. Slow down your breath. Breathe in through your heart, slowing down your breath to 5 or 6 seconds, whatever's comfortable for you. And as you breathe in and breathe out for 6 seconds, just for a few moments here, time your breath and get it so it's coordinated and perfect. And I want you to go back and bring up a feeling of freedom and joy, happiness and play into your heart. You might find yourself smiling a little bit, maybe bring up a memory of when you were a child, super happy. Bring that up into your heart. And if you can, I want you to imagine or actually travel to your heart through the outer courtyard into the inner courtyard. And you might see a wonderfully magnificent house that was built by your inner child, because clearly it's a fun and glorious place to go You can feel the warmth and happiness of this place that your inner child usually hangs out in. And you can feel its warm, inviting presence as you go and walk forward and open the door. You can hear playful sounds in the house as you enter. And you walk to the room, and your mind fills in the details of this playroom that you have. Your inner child is playing and having fun and looks up at you and smiles and goes back to playing. So for a moment, sit down with this inner child and simply play with them. You may have a desire to talk with them, but that's not what the inner child wants to do. The inner child wants to simply allow you to come and play. So spend a few moments and spend some time with your inner child, noticing how they act, how they laugh, what they do in their perfect playful expression of themselves. When you feel like it's comfortable, begin a conversation with this inner child of yours. You can see them, talk with them, ask them how they're doing. Observe them, and then ask your inner child if it has any advice or things it wants you to know, or he wants you to know, or she, whoever you see. Ask your inner child if it wants you to know something. You see the smiling child walk up to you, and you ask it, can you please give me a memory of something in my past that you would like for me to remember differently or change that is important to you? And you see the beautiful smile of the child as he reaches up and touches your head. And you have a memory now in this moment of something that your inner child wants you to remember. In this moment, ask your inner child what it feels about your current life. If there's anything that you should change, ask for your inner child's honest opinion. Ask your inner child in this moment for a feeling that you haven't felt for a long time that you want to remember, a particular feeling or experience that you perhaps have forgotten about. Now ask your inner child to go back and show you a moment where your inner child was forced to withdraw into the secure place of your heart, where you moved away from the inner child, a moment that perhaps reprogrammed you away from that innocent purity of your inner child. See this moment come up in your mind. Now ask your child, ask that inner child within your heart, what you can do to bring him back out of the heart, to bring him back out into your mind. What things can you do? What ideas does your inner child have for you to bring back this glorious, youthful presence back into your body and reality? Now, I just want you to send love to this inner child. I want you to hug him or her, bless them, thank them for staying in your heart, staying there and helping you all this time. Invite him to come out, him or her to come out to play with you, and thank them. Slowly leave this house. Feel the warmth and love as you go out into the outer courtyard. And for a few moments, I want you to go back to that moment, the moments that come up that perhaps you lost that inner child within. And I want you to revise it. I want you to imagine that experience being differently. Go into that memory and imagine it differently. Imagine that you didn't lose your inner child. Your inner child remained. You didn't lose the innocence of and the emotions of those moments. Now, having reimagined this wonderful experience, I want you to simply come back out, come into your body for a few moments. And I want you to sit with the emotions of your inner child fully in your body. I want you to feel those feelings of joy and happiness, those raw feelings that you've forgotten about. And I want you to sit with those as you tune into your heart, just feeling these wonderful, free, joyful, playful feelings of the inner child within. And don't forget these emotions, those feelings that you have now. And don't forget that the inner child is always there with you, openly available to communicate and talk to anytime. And I suggest that if you have problems in your life, questions that you have, don't forget that you can also ask your inner child anytime. For the wisdom of this inner child is beyond the wisdom of the greatest sage that you've ever known. Bless them and thank them, and awaken slowly back into your body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. You become one with this inner child, and don't ever lose it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah and Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing. Yeah. The thing that struck me was just like it was an amazing meditation, and learning the exact moment that I lost that joy.
You're probably given a flash, like it was just an instantaneous flash, which for most people, right?
When sports became where there was an expectation
Mhm.
on success versus just simply fun, is when I lost the fun.
I think for so many, it
Yeah.
is related to sports, right? It's
Yeah.
that moments, I don't want to be here anymore. Right?
It's
I
just
don't want to
stressful
play
now.
basketball anymore. Right.
But I love it. And you know what's funny? I started playing basketball again and I love it. You know?
Right. And you know,
Because I'm just playing. Yeah.
the best basketball players that are playing now, the pro players, you can see that inner child. They're free, they're playful, it's
Yeah.
all good. They got that vibrancy of joy. They didn't lose the inner child when they started. They just forgot about what they were saying, and they kept that playful energy within them, right? You see it in all sports. The
Mhm.
ones that are really good, it's still play for them, right?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes.
You see it for anybody in any field that's super successful. It's fun for them, right?
That was such a powerful meditation. I'm gonna
Thanks,
do
brother.
that one regularly. How can we support you on your journey, man? What's new and what can we do to help out Brian Scott along the way?
Just watch my videos, watch my videos and get a chance. You can buy my book. You can listen to my book on Audible, man.
And
It's
you're
all
working on
there.
a new one.
But anybody you help out on any journey, you're helping me out. So that's all, that's all you got to do, right?
You're the best.
Yeah.
You really are.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brian. This was a pleasure.
We
Thank
love
you much,
having
man.
you here.
We'll
Love
see you
you.
soon.
Awesome.
I'm bummed I couldn't meet up with you guys in Sedona. That sounds
Oh,
like
yeah,
yeah.
we missed you.
I'm sorry, man. Well,
Honey
it'll work.
mustard.
We'll figure it out sometime soon.
We've got the rest of our lives.
We
for
probably
this.
need to make the next reality con a live event.
That's what we were
There's a
talking
place
about
to
with
go.
Josiah. Yeah.
No, that.
Yeah.
So can you help me? We need to figure out a hotel that will host it for us, or
Okay.
someplace, and then we can make it a co-op live and Zoom event. I think we can do it. I think we can do it
I
now.
know
I
we
think
We
it's
definitely can do it.
Yes.
All
That'll
right.
start being the new
That's
vision.
the next vision.
Yeah.
I think we can have some fun with it. So let's imagine that.
Yes.
All
right.
A
All
whole
right.
conference of inner children.
Yes, let's bring it on.
Okay.
All right, man.
All right. Bye, everybody. Sending love.